and welcome to this episode of Voices of Fostering. Today I'm joined by Mandy. Hello, Mandy.
Hi there. Hi, Helen.
So Mandy, it's lovely to have you on the podcast. Mandy and I have met virtually a couple of times on some of our virtual information evenings that we do, but it's really good to have you on so we can have a good old chat about you and your journey through fostering, Mandy. So you've been a foster carer for nearly 4 years now. So tell us a little bit about how you came to fostering.
Well, it's a kind of long journey, really,
Yeah.
because I've lived a bit of a longer life than some others. But yeah, I decided that it was the right time when I was 63 rather than earlier. I had wanted to have children, but I couldn't have my own children, even though I had 2 attempts at IVF in my middle 30s. And then my wife and I decided that we were going to adopt because we wanted children in our lives. And we applied to a local authority. This was in the late 90s. And we were actually the first same-sex couple that they'd taken on, which you wouldn't imagine now,
Yeah.
but that was
Wow.
the case then.
Yeah.
And then, we went through the kind of process and we accepted as part of that. And then, unfortunately, my wife got breast cancer in 2001. So really, we had to focus on her journey.
Yeah.
And we were told by the local authority that we couldn't adopt or they wouldn't consider us until my wife was 5 years post-cancer. So kind of given our ages coming up to, late 30s, she was 5 years older than me. And because of her health, we decided to move house, do up a house, travel, do stuff like that. And then, later on in 2013, unfortunately, her cancer came back and she unfortunately passed away. So I moved house from London down to Essex. And I kind of spent my time, my work. I've got a professional career. I love my job. And I didn't want to retire or give anything up. So decided then at 63, well, I've got a big heart and a big house.
Yeah.
So let's give it a go.
Yeah, absolutely. And I suppose it was about finding the right time for you, wasn't it, Mandy? Because of course, you were and in many ways you will still be grieving and you needed to give yourself the time to process everything.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think once I made that decision, then I was all in. And talking to my friend, a friend, even before I said I was going to do it, said, "Don't worry, Mandy, I'll be your second." She said, "Whatever, I'll be your backup."
Yeah.
And it was like, it was kind of being given permission, you know. So I applied to the National Fostering Group. They put me in touch with my local agency, Brighter Futures. Somebody saw me, then the obviously long, laborious process, which is very intrusive, but an opportunity to talk about yourself.
Yeah.
And I started the journey, but I would not have been able to do it without my friend Billy as my backup, not just for me to be able to go to, but also backup for my young person.
Yeah.
You needing to be picked up from here or from college, or
Yeah.
she's got trouble with a snake and the tank it's in and all that sort of thing. So so she was very helpful, and honestly I would not have done it without her. And everybody needs a second, because as a
Yeah.
single carer, you do need that second person to be able to rely on. And whilst I've got wonderful family, it's special having that other special person
Yeah,
with
so
you.
is
So
Billy your person that supports you? So if you've maybe, you want to go away for a couple of days or you just want to go out for the evening, they'll look after your child for you.
yeah. Now, for me, I've always wanted teenagers. So, and I've had 2 young people, but I've had a 16-year-old with me, which is not, well, since she was 16. She's now 19. So I'm not really a foster carer at this moment in time because
Not
she's an adult in her
technically,
own
no.
right.
Yeah. So this is what you
So
wanted to talk about, isn't it, Mandy? About the sort of the end of the fostering journey, but it doesn't end, does it? It can't, because those young people still need support in their lives, don't they? So tell us about your experience with what we call staying put.
So that was really what I wanted to talk about, because that magical age of 18, it looms for all of us, to be honest. All of us want to be 18, want to have this magical whatever we think it's going to be. And that's the same for any child, and especially probably children in care, because it's kind of, it feels like that's that freedom from restriction and all those sorts of things. But when we leave home, I'm not a care leaver. I might leave my families, go to college or go to work somewhere else, but I'm not a care leaver because my care of my family goes with me.
Continues, yeah.
And into the future, and carries on supporting me. But that kind of age when young people in care are coming up to 18, what do they do? What do they not do? Where are they going to live? Are they going to move from where they're placed to their original local authority? Now, for us, we had a quite a dilemma, individually and together. So around when they were 17 and a half, the social worker was talking about different ways of being 18 and what they wanted, what they didn't want. And it was also whether they wanted to stay with me, whether they wanted to move and live in London, etc., etc. What would be on offer? What would college look like in London as opposed to Essex? All those sorts of things. And also for me, it was, okay, so I stopped being a foster carer. I stopped being with Brighter Futures. What does that mean for me? Financially, having a purpose, not having her in my life. How could I support her into the future? A whole range of things for me, as well as obviously for her. So we went and looked at the staying put, and social worker explained it all. And it just felt the right thing. They were not ready to be leaving. They were not ready to be going off into a bed sit in Tottenham at this moment in their lives. And for me, I'm very lucky. I've got a professional career. I've got a job. So fostering for me is being a parent, not being a job, because I don't need a job. So, and I was fortunate enough to know that going on to staying put, I would just get her housing benefit. She would have universal credit, college bursary. But I wouldn't get any money to support her. But that, in a sense, didn't matter to me. For a lot of people, it would be very important. So we decided at that magical age of 18 that we would instigate small changes, as in they might cook twice a week now. But we didn't go into making like, there's your food cupboard, you've got to now have that. I'm a landlady, you're my tenant, you got
Yeah.
to. We didn't bring in, because we're a family.
Yeah.
So, it was, but there was lots of dilemmas during that time. But I think once we'd agreed and settled, we settled into our new routine, and that's been a year now.
Yeah.
So
So I suppose it's like in many biological families as well. When you get to 18 or 19, your parents might want to start taking board off you to instill responsibility in you. So it was quite similar, really, wasn't it?
yeah, it's the same sort of thing. So yeah, she gives me an allowance per month, and we now do. I cook during the college days in the middle of the week because she gets home late. Then it will be she cooks for me 2 nights, and then we do our own thing 2 nights. So, and all the other stuff, the daily chores and all that carry on as they always have done. And I think over time, like in the next year, we'll put extra changes in, extra responsibilities, and doing own shop and doing all those sorts of things, so that it's kind of, I've got to push her away, really,
Mhm.
and it's the kind of stuff that I was lucky to have instilled in me. And I think that kind of strong parenting, I've noticed that they are now starting to parent others in certain actions and certain words and phrases. And I think to myself, I'm sure I said that last year. And I think, oh,
Yeah.
it's repeating itself.
Yeah. Oh, that must feel really nice. There must be a real sense of achievement in that.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
is. I think the kind of nurturing, I think 18 for some young people, they're very grown up, they're very mature. But for some of our children, they carry such trauma around with them that, and they might have, be on the spectrum, whether they're autistic or have PTSD, all those kind of things. And that doesn't change when they're 18. It's just it imposes even more, because it's something that is they're always going to struggle and manage. So then having the extra burden of being lonely, living alone when they've always been, somebody's always been there, managing all those letters that come through the post. What does this mean? There's an appointment at 2 o'clock. Well, they would have missed it because they didn't actually read the letter. So it's kind of health appointments. It's kind of learning to take that sense of responsibility. And I know a lot of young people can't do that until they actually experience it and learn from their mistakes.
Mhm.
But I think with just a bit of helping hand in nurturing those kind of sense of confidence, taking responsibility, I think for some young people, they need that extra time
Yeah.
before they're kind of ready to move on.
Yeah, to fully spread their wings. Yeah, absolutely. So as you say, you aren't technically a foster carer at the moment, but you still have your young person staying put with you. Would you consider having another child or young person come to live with you, Mandy?
Not while I've got my young person, because I think
Mhm.
we've got a special relationship, and when they came to me, they only wanted to be with one single
Yeah,
carer.
yeah,
So I think, but I mean, Brighter Futures has been fantastic. I mean, they've kept me on. They provide lots of support and advice, supervising social worker, a fantastic therapeutic support group monthly. I have access to all the training. So I think they're bargaining on me, but it depends when that becomes available, and whether whether I'm ready for
yeah,
doing that. So, and I'm gonna, in the next couple of years, I'll be heading towards 70. So I'm dealing with the here and now. But I am grateful to them keeping me on, because it's a good support network,
yeah,
especially when you're staying put. You've got very little contact with social worker. You're supporting your young person. And I think sometimes it's nice to be able to, talk to somebody out of your family, how
yeah.
you're feeling and stuff. So yeah, I never say never.
Yeah, see what happens. So reflecting back on the last 4 years of your fostering, Mandy, what would you say you've learned about yourself, you know?
Um, Resilience, to walk away down the garden path when you need to. Um, that the one thing and the main thing you can do for your young people is to be strong and provide a safe space. When young people come, they're not instantly going to be warm to you, need you, want you. And sometimes that takes a long time to develop. And in my experience, that has paid off. And I suppose, making sure that you kind of work in a therapeutic way, if you can do. I mean, I have professional career and a background, that has enabled me to do that. And I pulled actually on a lot of that, the things I did with children and young people before, who have experienced a lot of trauma. And I thought, yes, I worked in that way. And so I kind of pulled in a lot of that knowledge and information. But I think resilience and strength and having a good sense of humor, I think, always
Yeah.
helps.
Yeah.
And laughing at yourself. And usually my young people laugh at me because half the time I forget things, and I get names around the wrong way, and I say certain stupid things that is not very cool, you know. But it's the ordinary things, I think. I've Yeah, it's the ordinary things I think I've got to my age when I think, well, yeah, I'm able to give and not worry too much about what people think of me anymore,
Yeah.
because I can be a cranky, older person. I've grown into my own skin, if you like.
Yeah.
And it's okay. It's
Yeah.
okay, you know.
And Mandy, you've created this family unit now, which I suppose has been a long time coming for you, hasn't it?
Yeah. Yeah,
And
it has.
and I'm
Yeah.
sure your wife is in your heart and mind all the time, isn't she? What
She's everywhere around.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and what do you
Yeah.
think she'd be thinking about it all? Do you think she'd be really proud of you?
When my young person first came, I've always talked about her. So,
Yeah.
and she's everywhere. There's pictures, there's all her artwork everywhere. There's her pottery and sculptures. And what's been lovely is some of the artwork that my young person's done. She sometimes sit at the table and she'd say, because she'd done art at college first of all, and she'd say, "Do you think Nettie would like what I'm doing?" And I'd say,
Oh,
she'd be absolutely delighted with what you're doing. And what's wonderful for me is my wife's easel, big easel, is in the lounge now,
oh
because
wow.
my girl's been doing some big artwork
Yeah.
in charcoal. And it's just, yeah, just fabulous. So to see her stuff being used, it's
Yeah.
like she is definitely part of everything,
Yeah, and
which
isn't that
which is
Yeah,
wonderful.
it is. Isn't that wonderful that your young person
Mm.
feels like she knows Nettie as well and
Yes.
she's part of the family, yeah?
Yeah, absolutely. It's brilliant. I mean, yeah, she is the daughter I never had,
Yeah.
and I've got wonderful nieces, I've got a wonderful goddaughter, and godsons, and honestly, fabulous young people in my life. But yes, she is the daughter I've never had. And so, and my view of fostering was I didn't want to have lots of children. I know that sounded funny when you foster, because children move on.
Yeah.
But what I wanted was a young person that I could see into the future,
Yeah.
that I could continue to support if I was lucky enough to do that. And I've been very lucky to have that, really. And yeah, if I'm sure I will be popping up to London various times when she does move, or if she
Yeah.
does move from me.
Well,
If
and
not, I'll be leaving her here, and I'll be going off traveling while she carries on living her life.
Yeah, yeah. And that's it, you're in each other's lives now, aren't you? It's not going to end. Like, you've got a relationship now and that's forever.
And I think staying put has given us that. And I think, if you do have the opportunity to financially to do it and have it, because again, there are those little bits that you pay for that aren't part and parcel of fostering. So I think if you do have the opportunity to continue to support a young person, then I think, that is the way to go. So I'm glad to be on the scheme, and that will last as long as we want it to last, up until she's 21. So there will be then a time pressure on us to look at what we do then. So Yeah, but
Yeah.
we'll deal with that when we
cross
come
that
to
bridge
it.
when you come to it. Yeah. Oh, well, Mandy, it's been so lovely speaking to you today and hearing about your story, and best of luck with the future.
Lovely. Thank you, Helen. Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us for another episode of Voices of Fostering. If you'd like to find out more, head online and search National Fostering Group and make this the year you foster.